Aloha, everyone. Mahalo for joining us today. Aloha, Kanoi and baby. My name is Kaiulani Kawiho. I'm the founder of Hiʻiohia and Hiʻiohia Publishing. We're a nonprofit organization that publishes Hawaiian language and culture resources. So I'm just gonna go really quickly into a little bit about the background. I started at UH with the intention of going into Hawaiian language immersion as a teacher. And this was during the time when they still had the cut and paste Hawaiian language words over English words. And I thought that was fine. You know, I was a little bit naive at the time, I guess you could say, until I read the book, The Giving Tree. So raise your hand or your emoji if you've read that book, The Giving Tree. Yeah, I really liked it. Like as a child, I really did like the book. But when I read the Hawaiian language version of the book, it was suddenly not okay with me. I was like, wait a minute. Did he seriously just take and take and take? And then he just cut down the tree. And then he sat on the tree after he took everything. And it just felt really heavy. And I realized that there was something happening with this translating of these English stories into Hawaiian language. And what wasn't getting translated were our cultural values, our Hawaiian perspective, our Hawaiian worldview. And I was like, what are we teaching our children this way? You know, we're not teaching them to have respect for everything, to ask permission, to make sure things are sustainable and that they can keep going. Like he didn't plant any baby trees after he took everything, you know, that all of those things that come with having a Hawaiian perspective, right? It's like you really look at things differently. And so that kind of got me on my journey to look for where are our Hawaiian language, you know, authentic resources. And of course, the Hawaiian language newspapers was one of the biggest collection of resources that came from a Hawaiian perspective, like really an unadulterated Hawaiian perspective. And so I started pulling legends out of the new Pepa. And then I was thinking, you know what, I'm just gonna make my own books because I can't find, I was hired by Ka'ala Farms to buy books for their Hawaiian language library. And I couldn't find really what I wanted. There was like, you know, stories about like blue turtles and different things. And I was like, it has Hawaiian words on there, but still not what I'm looking for. So I was like, okay, how are we gonna do this? I said, you know, there's a big Hawaiian community, and I'm from Makaha, so moku of Wai'anae on Oahu. And I thought, okay, I can't draw. So illustrations are kind of out of the picture for me. And I was like, let's do photos. And then I was like, you know, I'm actually not a very good photographer either, but I do know that there are a lot of very good Hawaiian photographers in my moku. And so with that, we formed our nonprofit. We chose 8 Hawaiian legends. We had a kupuna council choose 8 Hawaiian legends. And we actually had community members reenact all of the Mo'olelo from, you know, from start to finish on location of where those Mo'olelo took place. If any of you know Jeanette's son, who's here in the audience, she was one of our awesome Hawaiian models in that first series, the Waianae series. We had to go up to the top of Ka'ala Mountain because that's where the Mo'olelo took place. And we did all of these legends. And then, you know, we had Hawaiian seamstresses, Hawaiian makeup artists. We had, about 130 Hawaiian models and our 8 Hawaiian photographers. And we just made it because the kuleana of telling the Mo'olelo belongs to the people whose moku that is. That was our mentality. This is your moku. We're not gonna come in and be like, you know, we're gonna tell your stories for you, because that's a theme that happens a lot, and we didn't want to perpetuate that. So with every district that we go in, we have the people of that district be the ones to tell the whole Mo'olelo. And that's kind of how it started. So we just finished our second series, which was Ko'olauloa, and I'm gonna share my screen if that's okay. Oh, and while you're all here, I'm so happy you chose to come to my room. In the chat is my address, and Kanayo Kana, oops, you're gonna hear all the peacocks, sorry. Kanayo Kana actually paid for you to have free books, a free book. It doesn't include shipping, but if you would like a copy of one of the books, please go to hiʻiohia.org and put in your information, and I will get back to you with your free book. I just need you to pay for shipping if you want to. So this is our company, Hiʻiohia, and just to kind of go over some of the titles that we have for this one. This series, we did it in English and ʻŌlelo Hawaii. So for any of you who are immersion teachers, awesome, and charter school, and even the English school, everyone can have these legends. And so, let's see. This district was the Ko'olauloa on Oahu. We got a grant from the Atherton family to do this project. You can see we have Kamapua'a, Kane and Kanaloa. I mean, for this one, we had 135 models who all were living, working, or from that district. We did one of the Maui legends, the Maui actually connecting the island of Kahuku was believed to be its own island and connecting it to Oahu. And so again, we chose 8 legends and 8 photographers. And we had one Hawaiian graphic designer who was really able to bring a lot of the magicalness of these mo'olelo to life. As you can see, we had Hawaiian makeup artists, and I mean, we had so many, we have so many people that we need to make these projects come. So sometimes people ask like, can you do it for my moku? And I'm like, yes. And this is what I need. I need about 200 people from your moku, but we can absolutely make it happen. We had 4 seamstresses for this, and we did the story of Laʻia Ikawai. And even though Laʻia Ikawai spent most of her life on the island of Hawaii, she was said to have been born in Malaekahana, and so the people of Ko'olauloa do kind of also claim her as their own, since that's kind of like her origin story, being born out on that side. And so the Kupuna Council wanted to have this mo'olelo told. And so for this project, we had 2 Hawaiian project directors, 6 English and Hawaiian language editors. All of our board of directors are also Hawaiian, and we change our board of directors every time we go into a new moku, and we make sure the board of directors is from that moku too, so they can direct the project. So we really put all the kuleana into the moku. And so that was one of the series that we published just this past year, 2020. And this is the second one. It's called Nanupepa Novelo. And this series is actually, I want to say it's a compilation of articles from the newspapers on different themed, I guess, on different themes like animals and traveling and farming. And so the goal of this series was to bridge the gap between school Hawaiian language, or the Hawaiian language that kind of, they call it university language sometimes, and the language that you find in the Nupepa, because it's very different. We wanted to give visual cues to help students learn. I mean, so my story was, I learned Hawaiian language since 7th grade at Kamehameha all the way to 12th grade. I took Hawaiian language every single year. And I knew I wanted to be an immersion teacher. And I went to college at University of Hawaii at Manoa, and I learned more Hawaiian language. But while I was there, one of the things we had to do was go into the Hawaiian language newspaper and do research and all these kind of things. And it was really my first interaction with the Hawaiian language newspaper. So I've been learning Hawaiian language for 6 years, and it wasn't until maybe the 7th or 8th year that I interacted with the Hawaiian language newspaper. And at that time, it was still, you know, kind of where you have to go to Bishop Museum and look at the microfilm. It wasn't online. There was no ulukau. But I freaked out. I couldn't read anything. I mean, I think it was my own mental blocks, but no okinas, no kahakos. It was very scary. I felt, I lost my confidence. I felt I've been learning Hawaiian language for 6 years, and I feel like I don't know anything about Hawaiian language because I can't read the newspaper language. But really what it was building up my own confidence, realizing that they don't use the standard Hawaiian alphabet that we use. They still, I mean, it was just when Hawaiian language became a written language and the whole state became, you know, almost 100% literate. And so there weren't a lot of, you know, there were no standardized words for a lot of the new words that were coming out of the rest of the world. And so a lot of the words in the new pepa, you can't find them in the Hawaiian dictionary. You can't find them on vehe vehe, like you can't find them anywhere. And so what we did was we added in pictures, first of all, to help people kind of figure out what the articles are about. We were commissioned to do this project by ʻOhe, the Office of Hawaiian Education. And initially, we wanted to do it without okina and kahako to really help people start to get comfortable with reading that way so that they could go to the Hawaiian language newspapers and read more depth, read about harder topics like religion, politics, business, that kind of thing. But they asked us to put the okina and kahako in. So this series does have the okina and kahako. And we did a little bit of editing. We tried not to do any editing, but this is one example. There was a word kilone, and we didn't know what it was. It wasn't written anywhere else in the newspaper, on any database, like anywhere. We found out it was for Keelan, which is the former name of Sri Lanka. And so it's like little footnotes and changes we put in there to help with understanding. It's a little bit higher level. So even though the books are, they look like children's books, but they are more for intermediate, high school or college level learners. So one of the books, ʻAha Ka'aina, has a collection of just all farming. There was a lot of articles about farming at the time. This book, Ke Ka'apuni Honua, as you probably know, Hawaiians, once they started to interact with whalers and different travelers, they started traveling everywhere around the world. And so this is a collection of stories written about those different places around the world. We did animals of Europe and America. And this, sorry about the background noise. This story here, the Bipi Puapu'u, is like a perfect example of research that I had to do. Like, I didn't really know what it was because in the dictionary there's no Bipi Puapu'u, and so it took me a long time, and I had to, you know, look at, okay, what color is it? Because there's no pictures, right, in the new pepa. What color is it, and what does it eat, and where does it live, and how big does it grow, and all of these things to find out it was a musk ox. And I was like, I don't even know what a musk ox is. What is a musk ox? And so there are a lot of animals like that. Another animal that I found that was really interesting was called a puaka. And I tried to find a puaka. I didn't understand. It was like half of a horse and half of a zebra. And I was like, what kind of animal is a half of a horse and half of a zebra? Like, I didn't know. I was like, are they making up animals, you know? But I did a lot more research, and it comes to find out that that animal actually went extinct in the early 1900s. But the person who wrote that article was actually there in New York at the zoo when they still had one of the last, they're called quagga. Actually, it's like Quagga. And so it's an animal that we're not familiar with because it doesn't even exist anymore. But through science and new technologies, I recently saw on the internet that they are trying to bring back that animal. So it's very amazing. But it was cool to see that there were animals they're talking about, so excited about, that we might never see. So we did another one, Animals of America and Asia, and we tried to keep the topics kind of simple topics that you could look at the picture and you could kind of understand, you know, what it's talking about, because the whole point is to help students just get familiar with the type of newspaper writing, word usage, and a lot of times, you know, sometimes if they didn't have enough like A's right on the printing press, then they would put the okina instead of putting the A. So the spelling was different. So there's a lot of things that I think are kind of blocks for new learners when they're just jumping into the new PEPA that they needed support with. So we tried to support them with that. We did common and uncommon animals, birds. We just tried to get themes. So this is the insects and the things that eat insects. You know, we tried to get what the kids would be interested in reading about. There's a lot of articles on Europe, a lot. So I tried to pull out ones that are kind of, I guess you could say like Instagram worthy, like this one here on Venice, you know, things that maybe students will kind of have a little bit of knowledge of, or maybe seen it on some travel pages on Instagram and want to read about it, or see what their kupuna wrote about it, or what was happening during that time. So for every article, we include the reference of where you can find this mo'olelo in the newspaper. Like I said, we included all the okina and the kahako. Some parts of the article were cut out. And so if you order the series, you'll see like the article is much longer, but we just took the parts that really talked about the topic. So I think there was one, I think it was about the snake or the viper. And so the article is really long, but the part talking about the actual snake was like 50%. And then the other part was actually got really religious and talked about, you know, the snake being the devil and you know, all the Bible references. And so we didn't want to edit any of the articles really, but in the end, the team chose to just keep the informational side for the keiki, just to learn about the topic at hand. So those are some edits that we did to a couple of the articles. And then all of the images we got are from free sites like pixabay.com. If you don't know that one, it's a good place to go to get copyright free images. And otherwise we purchase stock images. And then, like I was sharing in the beginning, our first series was about the Waianae Coast. So we did the Waianae legends in English and Hawaiian, Ko'olau legends in English and Hawaiian, and then we did the newspaper collection that we just showed. But all of our Waianae legends books are sold out already. So I just have a picture here of our Hawaiian language version of the Waianae series. So we have a legend on Nanaue, the Io Man of Kavivi, Lonoka'eho, and the Stones of Tahiti talks about, if any of you have been to Hoka'i Bay here in Waianae, and there's a heiau at the end, and it's believed that those stones came from Tapu Tapu Atea in Tahiti, and that's the legend of that. There's about Hiʻiaka and her travels on this side of the island from when she left Kauai with Lohiau and was returning to Hawaii. The robbers of Makaha, the coconut flute, Paliuli and Hi'ilani Vai, and the fish attracting stone of Nanakuli. And these ones again are in Hawaiian language only, and you can order them at hiʻohia.square.site. Or if you are from the Department of Ed and you're just doing purchase orders, then you can send an email and we can work that out. Mahalo! Yeah, I went through my first slide deck. So again, my name is Ka'iulani Kawiho. If you want a free book, because Kanayo kind of paid for it, go to hiʻohia.org and put in your information. You just have to pay for shipping, but I'll get a book to you. And if you want to order, you can go to our Square site. And if you have any information, you can screenshot right here my email or my phone number, or you can also message us on the site. So mahalo. Are there any questions? Mahalo.
Hello, Mike. Can you put your information back up? I didn't get it. I didn't quite get it.
Sure.
Mahalo.
No problem.
I have a quick question. What are you working on? What are you working on next? Is there another series that you're working on?
Yes, yes. Oh, so I have a couple of plugs actually. One project that we're working on right now is for the high schools. So if any of you are teaching high school, send me a message or let me know or put it in the chat. We've just created Hawaiian culture-based financial literacy curriculum for high school. I don't know if any of you are aware, but there was a bill that just came out where they want to start requiring financial literacy to be taught in the high school. So we made 3 Hawaiian culture-based programs, and we actually use Hawaiian legend to teach financial literacy concepts. But we have one program that teaches basic financial literacy like budgeting, needs and wants, expenses, debt. And then we have another program that teaches entrepreneurship. So starting your own small business, even as a high schooler. And then our third program is a youth credit program for seniors. So we are teaching seniors all the rules of credit, and we're teaching them through using a checking account and debit card. But learning, you know, like if some of you don't know, you start to lose points if you use more than 9% of your availability. So it's like if you only have $100, you shouldn't be using more than $9 within your statement period. Like nobody knows it's like 9%. It's pretty low. It's almost nothing. And so we're teaching the kids, like, if, you know, some people say if you have a small account, then you can only do a little bit of damage, right? I can't get into too much debt if I just have a small credit card, but actually it doesn't work that way. And one way that we teach this mana'o is with the idea of a lo'i. So back in the day, you could have, you know, there were lo'i from ocean to mountain. There was lo'i everywhere. There's a lot, but you're probably given one lo'i first to take care of. And it's like, if you were a good steward of that resource, then sure, the ponohiki could give you more lo'i, and, you know, and you could also start malamain more lo'i. And it wasn't that you're trying to be greedy with 100 lo'i, but it was planning. It was, what if a pig came through and took out 50% of it? Now, if you only had one lo'i and a pig took out 100% of it, you'd have nothing to feed your family with, right? So if you're managing more and you just use less, but you want to manage a lot, because that's how you can make sure you have for later. That's how you can make sure that if your neighbor, something happens with them and they're starving, you can kokua them. If you have visitors that come in from Aotearoa and you need to feed people, you're managing a lot. You're not eating everything at one time, but you're managing. So it's the same thing with credit. You want to start with being able to manage a little. I mean, you have a lot of credit, you use a little. As you manage just this little, you get more and more and more. The people who use, you know, their everything that's available to them, they don't get offered more and more and more and more. So for any of you who are teaching high school and are interested, we have these 3 programs, and we use all Hawaiian analogies, just like that lo'i one, and mo'olelo, like teaching debt. We use the legend of Hiʻiohia and Ka'anahao. And I don't know if any of you know that one already, but basically Ka'anahao fed Hiʻiohia so much luau, like so much. She was just like, how can I repay you for all this luau you fed me? And he said, I just want you. I just want your body. And so it said Hiʻiohia stayed to pay the luau debt. So it's like, debt is not a Western concept. Like, we were very well aware of what debt was in ancient Hawaii, and Hiʻiohia even said it herself. So that was where the term, the luau debt came from, is from that mo'olelo. So teaching, you know, that debt can be good if you're ka'anahau and someone owes you stuff, and then debt can be like maybe not so good if you owe someone stuff, but it doesn't, in both cases, they're Hawaiian. It wasn't like one was a non-Hawaiian putting another Hawaiian into debt. Like everyone was Hawaiian, we understand debt. And so using our mo'olelo in that way, not just as like story time or, and I know that on Big Island, and Tipua them been using it to also teach all the science concepts as well, the Hiʻiaka and Lohiao and Pele stories. So in that same way, we've been using it to teach business. So mahalo for that question. Are there any other questions? Mahalo, mahalo. If you have your emoji signs, if you are from a Moʻolelo Hawaii school, can you raise it? I just want to see if you have your Moʻolelo Hawaii emoji. All right. Hikioka aina, mahalo. Okay, mahalo. So that was our whole round, our whole slide deck. I know you guys are gonna be, oh my gosh, is it 1:30? Are we halfway through? Oh no, I know that you're gonna be bouncing in and out to the different rooms. So thank you so much for joining me. Please contact me if you have any questions, if you wanna know more about any of the books or the projects, and go to the website for a free book. I really want to get those all out to you. Otherwise, I will probably have to send the extras to Kanaio Kana, and I don't know what they're going to do with it. I'd rather them go to your hale. So mahalo, and have a good day, everyone. And everyone who just came in, who wants to stay and join us, I am going to go through the slide deck again. Kyra, did you have anything? Ahuiho, Jeanette, mahalo.
Just for the chat, I know folks are starting to go, and then we're probably getting new people in, but I put the link in to join the other rooms, the other exhibitions, and then also to make sure to go join the Aloha Aina Leaders Awards at 2 o'clock. I put the link in there too.
Mahalo, mahalo. Kinohi, did you have a question? I know you've been here since the beginning.
Sorry, so loud in my house. Yeah, I do. You know, if you guys are going into, like, let's say Waimanalo community, do you guys like help the community look for like mo'olelo, or like you ask a lot out of the community to already know a lot of their mo'olelo on their own?
So it's two-part actually. So one part is we do look for mo'olelo in like sites of Oahu. Have you gone through that book before?
Yeah.
It has a lot of the, you know, the links to where in the Nupepa the mo'olelo of that district is. So we do the research on our part. The other part is that every time we start a new moku, we have a kupuna council. And so we have the community decide, like we don't pick the kupuna council, but we have the community suggest members, and we have kupuna volunteer. And once we have the kupuna council, they bring out a lot of the mo'olelo, or they direct us, like we need to talk to this person, you know, for different mo'olelo. And then once we have our whole list, because every moku has like tons of mo'olelo. Once we have our whole list, we actually put the kuleana in the hands of the kupuna to choose the 8 mo'olelo. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's not us, you know, it's really everything comes out of the moku itself. So the kupuna are the ones who say, no, we don't want this story representing our district, you know, or this is an important story to our district, and this is the one we need to share. they make the decisions on it. Yeah.
Mahalo. Yeah, so if we're like, if our community, you know, has interest, we could just contact you and like talk story.
Exactly.
Okay.
And even we don't need to be the ones that run the project. Like if there's a organization that's interested, we kind of just like give them our template for everything we do, and they can do it ourselves, because there's so many mo'olelo and so many moku. We can't do everything, but
Right.
so the main one was like funding. And so it was actually like a competition between Ko'olauloa and Ko'olaupoko. But we got funding for Ko'olauloa, so that's why we ended up doing them. But Ko'olaupoko has been like, everybody from Ko'olaupoko is like, hey,
Yeah.
how dare you do Ko'olauloa before Ko'olaupoko? There's order to things. It's so funny, the rivalry. But
Yeah.
But if there is funding, and depending on what you want to do, so for the Waianae series, we did the whole project all the way up until publishing with zero funding. Like the community just did it. They just did everything. So everyone worked for free all the way up until publishing. And then when we're ready to publish, we're like, oh yeah, we need money.
Yeah.
What are we gonna do? And so an angel investor actually came in, and they paid for all the funding, and then we gave them a return on their investment. But for the Ko'olauloa district, we did get that grant, the Atherton grant, and then I think we also got a community, you know, because they have the windmills, and so the windmill company gives money for different projects. So we got one of those grants too. But I know for Ko'olaupoko, there is a lot of money for different projects.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for that second project, we did end up, the models, they always volunteer because there's so many models. But what we do on our end is we give them a copy of their book they're in for free. Yeah. So that's kind of like their payment. They get their own book. But we were able to pay the photographers, the seamstress, the makeup artists, the editors, and the graphic designer.
Nice.
So it's good because we always want to employ the talented Hawaiians in our moku, you know?
Right.
But whatever way we can help to encourage them to keep practicing their talent and to keep sharing it. And so what's good about the book is that it's also kind of like a portfolio for some of these guys. Like the photographers, they can go and say like, hey, I'm published, you know? And the makeup artists and the seamstresses, they can say like they've worked on this big project. So it really is a strength to the community and to help this, you know, these next generation of hopefully entrepreneurs to kind of promote their business, and also a sense of pride for the moku. And then beyond that is perpetuating the mo'olelo, which is a lot of the mo'olelo that come from the newspaper. The newspaper is so high level, not everybody can read it, right? So trying to make it available to everyone. But let me just show you. I didn't put it in my slide, but hold on, I gotta find. Sorry, I have all my books right here. But so in the back of the book, we actually have like the original image, the mo'olelo from the Nupepa, so that people can see where the, you know, because people ask like, oh, did you write these stories? I'm like, no, I don't write stories. No, these are from the kupuna. This is where you can find it. And, you know, let's see, where was this one? Nupepa Ku'oko'a, January 1st, 1906. So we tried to put the reference in there to just show, and then, you know, we have all the models at the end, and that's our mahalo to them, and that's how we're trying to help spread Hawaiian awesomeness all over the world. But what are you with a Kula Kinohi?
I work with a community group called Ke Kula Nui o Waimanalo. So
that
like
a
we have, huh?
Is that
It
a,
kind of, I mean, it kind of is. We we do aquaponics, we do fish pond restoration, we do healing within the community, we do art, we do all kinds of things. There's a big umbrella. So my personal interest is in Mo'olelo. So I was just wondering, like, you know, even if we could get the template, I think we have the same ideas on how we like to empower community members to, you know, to do all of the things, be the models, be the main characters, be all of those things. So yeah, I appreciate that about your project.
yeah, no, it's yeah, like really I'm just the like here it is and go this way and do that and you know tell the boys, okay, put on the malo, and they're like, what is this, a headband? Like no, like so that was one of the most fun things, was teaching all these boys how to wear a malo, and they all grumble and no one wants to come out of the bathroom. But then once they see 20 other boys all wearing the malo, then suddenly they want to wear the malo everywhere. They want to go to the store in the malo, and they want to hang off the back of the truck in a malo, and everybody like trying to surf in a malo. So it was really empowering. And you know, one of the boys said, like, he told his grandma, he said, this is the first time that I ever felt Hawaiian, you know? And it's like, that's true. Like this world we live in, sometimes we don't feel Hawaiian at all if we just go about our daily life and we're just on Instagram. And but to really like put on a malo and like hold the weapons and reenact these legends on location of where it took place is very powerful for our youth to be like, no, these are like legit stories. This is our history and you need to be a part of preserving it. So for them to have that kind of kuleana, it really impacted them. And I still have students. Our first project was in 2012, and I still have, you know, people coming in and saying that it still is like such an impactful thing for them. So yeah, so hopefully we can do Ko'olau Poko soon. Just let me know. All right, aloha e kapaliku pehea and ke alohi pehea olua I kiala.
Hello, long time no see. I haven't come to visit your mama with Kamalu in a long, long time, but hopefully you folks have been doing well.
Oh my gosh, none of us got COVID, so that's always awesome.
That's what she told me the last time she came to the museum and gave me a big hug. But that was like last year already. But yeah,
Oh,
it was lovely to see you.
yeah, aloha, aloha. Okay, so since you guys are here, is it okay if I share my screen? I'm gonna hana hole through my slide deck. Oh, and I'm on like last page. Wait, 1 second. Oh, I don't even know how to get to first page without. I've never reached the end of my slide and not been and had to go back to the front. All right, I gotta stop sharing. Okay. Kyra, we didn't practice that yesterday.
No, we didn't, but you
What
got
happens
it.
when you get
You
to
got
the
it. Now just hit present again. Yep, you're good.
Yeah. Okay, so aloha. My name is Ka'iulani Kawiho, and the organization I founded is called Hiʻiohia. And it basically means the existence of something is revealed. And it's because our research into the Hawaiian language newspapers revealed a lot of resources that we can use for our ohana and our kula. And so I created some Hawaiian language and actually English and Hawaiian books. Kanaʻokana bought a bunch of books to give away for free. So if you want a free copy, go to hiʻiohia.org and put in your information, and you just need to pay for shipping and I can get them out to you. So depending on how many people actually sign up, you could get one free book or you could get a whole set of free books. So we'll see. But this is one of the legends that we did, Kamapua'a in Kaliwa'a. So this series is our Ko'olau Loa series. And we have 2 series. one from Ko'olaulua, and one from Wai'anae for our legends series. And so we try to use Hawaiians who live and work in the area to reenact all of the 8 mo'olelo that we did for this moku. And all of our models were volunteers. Because I'm not an artist, we did photography. I'm actually not a photographer either. And so we got 8 Hawaiian photographers to capture the legends. And we tried to do them all on location as close as possible. If we could do enough research to find out the exact location, you know, or sometimes it's passed down, right? The kupuna know where the spot is because it's been passed down. If we can get that information in any way, then we try to do everything right on that site where it took place. And sometimes we had to get permission from DLNR to go to the tops of mountains and permission from Board of Water Supply to go up near their water towers. And we had to go through all kinds of loops and do all these jumping through hoops. But everyone was just so awesome at supporting this project and helping us to make it happen. So we had Hawaiian makeup artists do the makeup for and everything. We had some mo'o in there, and we had all kinds of different creatures and fish people. Our Hawaiian seamstresses sold all of the costume, and they were from the moku. And in total, we had our project directors, our editors, and our board of directors, all Hawaiian from the moku. And so that was one of our legend series. And our second series, our collection of puke from the Hawaiian language Nupepa. And this series is called Na Nupepa Novelo. And as you can see, we have a bunch of different themed books. So we have farming, animals, travel, and I'll kind of go through and share with you. But the goals of these books were to bridge the school language, or it's called university language, and Nupepa language. And we wanted to give readers visual cues to help them, because if any of you have, remembered your first time ever reading from the Hawaiian newspaper, I know for me it was a little traumatizing. I had taken Hawaiian for 6 years before I even tried to read a Hawaiian language newspaper, and when I did, I felt like I didn't understand anything. No kina, no kahako, use of almost every letter in the English language randomly in different places, and lots of names and words that I was not familiar with and could not find in the Hawaiian language dictionary. So we did some editing, we added footnotes to kind of help with that. Okay, so this collection also has 8. We kind of stuck with the 8 puke per series theme. And there was one that had a bunch of farming articles, and not just of Hawaiian plants. There was coconut and ulu, sugarcane, but there was also about growing, grapes and rice and all kinds of other. It was like at this time where Hawaii was still making a lot of its food, but because of the Great Mahele and losing land, there weren't as many farmers. And they were trying to say, like, you need to farm, like people need to get, this is where the wealth of our country, Hawaii is. It's in farming. And so those articles are very interesting. And then we have one puke that's just on world travel. I mean, everywhere that any of them traveled to with the whalers or with the missionaries, down to Micronesia, everywhere, they just traveled everywhere, and they wrote back about these travels and shared everything they learned. So it was really amazing. And then we have, I think we have 3 books that's on animals. So this particular one is on Europe and American animals. And so some of the research was fun. I have this one, the BP Kuapu'u, because it took me forever to find out what a BP Kuapu'u was. Like I had no idea. And I know it was some kind of cow, obviously, but like really hairy, lives way up in the mountains, you know, gets really big, and it has like all this oil stored in its back. And come to find out, it was a musk ox. But I had to do hours and hours and hours of research to figure out what it was because I couldn't find it in the Hawaiian dictionary. So we did the research and we found the images so that people can look at it and, you know, just have at least some base knowledge about what the article will be about. And so we also did animals of Africa and Asia. And I was sharing in the last one of the most interesting animals that I came across was called a kūkā. And I didn't know what a kūkā was, but the article told me it was a half horse and a half zebra. And I thought it was a made up animal, but come to find out, it's actually a kūkā, which is Quagga. And I mean, that didn't really help too much either because I still didn't know what it was, but I found out it was an animal that went extinct in the early 1900s. But there was a Hawaiian at the New York Zoo who saw one of these animals, and it must have been, I think it was like one of the last pictures that anyone has of it. And they actually saw it for themselves. So it was like amazing to hear, you know, our kupuna writing about this animal that they saw, and we can't even see it because it doesn't even exist anymore. So there's really interesting articles that we found, and we tried to pick topics that were not very sophisticated because we want this to be the connection between you know, what the language you learned in school, and now you're kind of moving up to this newspaper language, which is a lot more sophisticated, way more new words, and many of those new words you can't find the definition to anywhere. You have to do so much research to find out what the word is. And so we didn't want our students losing confidence and being turned off by the Hawaiian language newspapers because of these blocks. And so we kind of built this scaffolding just for them, for our Hawaiian language learners. We have a book on birds. I went mute. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Okay. And then we have another one on insects and the things that eat insects. I made this one just for the boys. I know how much they love insects. And there's a lot of articles on Europe. So I tried to pick ones that the kids might be familiar with, like Venice is kind of Instagram worthy a lot of times. So, you know, these popular and interesting things that the kids might have had some interaction with on their Instagram or something. And just for them to see like what stories were coming out of Europe, what was happening during the time, what was interesting to our kupuna at that time. And so for every article that we included, we do have a reference at the very end, like this woodpecker article was from the Kealaula newspaper, October 1869. We included Okina and Kahako in some parts of the article were cut out in some instances. One example I gave was there was an article about a snake, and only 50% of the article was actually about the snake, like its color, where it lives, what it eats. And then the other 50% of the article talked about how the snake is representative of Satan and he tries to tempt you and this kind of thing. So even though we didn't want to edit the articles at all, in some instances, if it got really long and it was not actually reporting or talking about, you know, the main topic, then we did make those, we did decide to make those edits. And all of our images came from free sites like Pixabay. So if you need free, copyright-free pictures for any of your projects, Pixabay.com is awesome. And then we also bought some stock images for it. So we didn't take any of these, well, there's a couple pictures, but for the most part, we didn't take any of the pictures ourselves. And then our our first series actually was our Waianae Legends series. And we published this one in 2012. And we did a second run of it just this past November, but we are all sold out of the English. If you ʻōlelo Hawaii or you want some ʻōlelo Hawaii puke for your classroom or home, then we also have this one. So this one is The Legends of Waianae, and we have the story of Nanaue, the Shark Man, the Io Man of Kavivi, Lono Ka'eho, and the Stones of Tahiti. And this one talks about the creation story of Pu'ilioloa Heao at Poka'i Bay, and how those rocks were said to have come from Tapu Tapu Atea in Raiatea. Escape from Hiʻiaka talks about her journey on the west coast here. The Robbers of Makaha, the Coconut Flute, Paliuli and Hi'ilani Vai, and the Fish Attracting Stone of Nanakuli. And so these are all in Hawaiian, and you can order them at hiʻiohia.square.site if you're interested. Oh, and that's it. Mahalo. 10 more days till Mother's Day. If any of you are interested, I am doing this Sheets and Stories combo. So one of my other businesses, we print these Hawaiian print sheets. So I know some of you know my mom, and she does kapa, and she did these designs. So if you've ever stayed at the Aulani Resort, she did all the blankets and sheets and pillowcases and curtains and shower curtains. So we're kind of doing a Mo'olelo and Moana combo. And you can message me for that. But mahalo nui. My name is Ka'iulani again. If you want a free copy of one of our books, just go to hiʻiohia.org and give me your information. You just need to pay shipping. If you want to order for your school, you can go to hiʻiohia.square.site. Or if you're with DOE, you can just message me and we can work out a purchase order. And my contact information, if you want to screenshot, hiʻiohia.inc@gmail.com, and my number. So mahalo. Does anybody have questions?
I have a quick question.
Sure.
Where are the books also available in the library, in the Hawaii State Library system?
They are. Every single library, actually the state library office bought books for every single library in the state.
Awesome. And then one other question, are there ebooks, or are you planning on doing ebooks?
We are just uploading all of our ebooks. So I think we have the Ko'olauloa in Hawaiian and the Nupepa collections. Those two collections are up. So we still need to put Ko'olauloa English, Waianae English, and Waianae Hawaiian up. But yes, they're available on iTunes. We haven't really been promoting them too much because we're trying to sell all the hardcover books first. But if you go on iTunes and do a search, they are up. They're also available. Yeah, mahalo for asking. Any other questions? I know you guys have to head over soon to the Aloha Aina Leader Award ceremony. Oh, and if any of you are high school, raise your hand or show your emoji. Do any of you teach high school? No, yes. Oh, okay. Really quick. We are looking for high schools that might want to pilot our Hawaiian culture-based financial literacy program that we created. So we're doing financial literacy, entrepreneurship, and a youth credit build program for seniors to practice credit and learn about credit. So, and it's all culture-based. We use Mo'olelo to teach all of our financial concepts and Hawaiian analogies. So reach out to me if your kula is interested. We want to try this out at a couple different schools. But otherwise, mahalo nui, everyone, for coming. Mahalo. Yeah. Mahalo.
Uy, aloha. aloha ka iulani.
Aloha, kay Ninau Kau.
Ai, ade po ike na ho'omana o ia o dalani ko makuahine, ea?
Hi.
Yeah, walau na mua maka whea mele manaka mahilo.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Wai hoi vau I ka papahana kula ki financial literacy awi hapai ai.
Ayo oi ke kula hea.
Navahi.
Oh, Navahi. Oh, well, oka opo I mau puke. Mai mako.
Oh yeah? O ke ade vau I ike?
Yeah. Well, I know makana ma nanakuli ua oka lako.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Ho'omana o ma Hawaii ke kahi. But ai hiki no.
He aha ko helu leko wila.
Okay, e kiko
Leko wila
wau.
po ia oi. O lalo oi no ka papa umi kumalua vale no? Ai o hiki.
Ka mea credit no ka papa umikuma lua vale no. No ka mea ale hiki a oi ke kūpulu I ke credit he umikuma valu.
Umikuma valu. Okay.
Ke la ke kumu, yeah.
Hiki no. Okay.
Yeah. E leku ila mai au.
Gmail.
So no ka no na kula e like no me who's that other school? Kamakau. No, not Kamakau, the other one. Halau Kumana. Oh, Halau Kumana. So e hanana ke kaio na kula e like no ka papa Ava ame umi ke la financial literacy basics. No ka papa umikuma kahi or umi ame umikuma kahi paha. Maulipreneur ka inoa o komako entrepreneur mea. Alaila no ka papa umikumalua ka mea credit. Yeah.
E leko ila vau ia oi mahalo nui ka okohana.
Okay, mahalo. Mai ka
Iho.
All right, Kyra, we did it. Wait, you're muted.
I'm muted.
Oh,
Great job.
I only
Great job.
have to go through 2 times. That was
Oh,
good.
you were so good. You know what I was thinking real quick? I'll email you too, but doing a behind the scenes of when you create these, because oh my God, everyone would love, you can have it on your website or something. Just, I didn't realize the amount of, I guess now it makes sense when I read your books, The Way and I, that it was all community, but oh my, I got goosebumps, like the places, the costume, and needing to learn about the history of how these are made for the seamstresses. There's like so much like Ike being shared and absorbed. It's super cool. Like getting a grant, I don't know, like I'm like, something's got to be done on behind the scenes of the making of these puke.
Oh, that would be awesome. Yeah. It's such a great project. I mean, it's so much work, but
it's so much work. I can only imagine.
Yeah. I would like to get paid like a lot of money to do it.
Well, and what you're doing, you should, and like you said, you share your templates, and you're going to need to work with all these moku, the kapuna from all the moku, right? They're going to need a lot of, it's daunting when you're not used to doing it. It's very intimidating and daunting.
Yeah, so hopefully we can do more. I mean, we've been approached by like Navai ʻAha. They want their Moʻolelo told Kalau Papa. All the moku on the Big Island and this island. I mean, really, anybody that I tell the story to, they're like, "Can you do our moku, please?" And I'm like, "Yeah."